approached my parents and said, how can we make this be something that can support two families? We just thought that was a good opportunity. So I remember laying out a budget where I was just about to get married. It was like the bare minimums to survive. And as I started progressing, I'm like, man, this is such an opportunity.
I love the story. And I think what really stuck out to me, I think there's a lot of guys, a lot of early PCOs, they're young, they're trying to figure out their business, they're trying to navigate this world where a lot of them are currently working for other pest control companies, or they're doing something different. They've heard about the opportunity that pest control affords, and they're thinking, man, where do I start?
Hey everyone, welcome to the Bug Bucks podcast, a podcast designed to help you become a bug money millionaire. I'm Alan Draper.
And I'm Eric Bassett.
And we're your hosts. Today's episode is brought to you by Bug Bucks Plus, which is the #1 course designed to help you start and grow your pest control company. Eric and I are dedicated to providing you with the best resources to help you on your journey to success. Before we begin, I just want to remind everybody the best way to receive new episodes is by subscribing to our show on your preferred platform, such as Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you love the show, please leave us a review and a rating. And one last reminder, if you haven't joined our Facebook group, go to Bug Bucks. That's BUGBUX on Facebook. We love to hear from our listeners, and we love to be able to interact with them on that platform. What do you have for us, Eric?
Today, we have an exciting guest. I would like to welcome Caleb Fabry. Caleb is the president at Town & Country Pest Solutions in Rochester, New York. His parents started the company in 1986, and Caleb has been working for the business since he was a kid. Welcome to the show, Caleb. How about you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you very much, guys. I've just turned 40 years old. I have a wife. We've been married for 17 years, and I have 4 kids. My oldest is going into 10th grade, all the way down to my youngest, who is going into 3rd grade. So we've got a lot going on right now. And our second most important thing that we're doing is our business called Town & Country Pest Solutions right here in Rochester, New York, Buffalo, and Syracuse.
Wow. Yes. And I love how you mentioned the second most important thing you're doing is the pest control company. So are you saying the family's the first important thing?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, really,
Awesome,
if I want to knock it down one more, it's the third. God is the most important, then my family, then.
Sure.
So there you go.
There you go.
I think I like that little touch, just starting off the show with kind of touching on the why behind the what. We're all doing this for a reason, right?
Yep.
So that's awesome.
Yeah, that's, I was watching this video. It was like a short, like this past week, and it said something about how, something to the effect, it was a little more catchy than I'm probably going to say it, but something to the effect of, if you're proactive about, if you're deliberate about it, a business will give you everything that you want. And if you're not proactive and deliberate about it, it will take everything that you have.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I'm like, dude, that freaking hits.
Yeah.
I think part of it was, so my backstory was I was practicing law. I quit practicing law in Phoenix, packed up my young family. I had a 4-month-old and a 2-year-old, and we moved to Detroit, Michigan to start a pest control company.
Wow.
And I definitely underestimated how difficult it was. You got started with family, right? You took over the family business. I imagine that there were, some obvious difficulties with the transition in doing that. Do you ever think like, hey, I wonder what would have been different if I just started my own? Let's talk a little bit about kind of the pros and cons of not starting from scratch, because I'm sure that, there's a lot of benefits to doing that.
I guess, yeah, that one's a really good topic because it definitely hits home to me for sure. I mean, we experienced that, and I have thought about that in the past. And then I've also thought, why would I do such a thing when we've got the groundwork laid? Really, my parents gave me a lot of control right out of the gate once I got out of school. And, I'm a very determined person just to get things done. They trust me to make decisions. My dad needed help. The business was really, my dad crushing it every single day. And I don't ever really remember opportunities that he missed in our lives with sports and different things that we went through as kids. But he always took us along and made fun out of everything. So I would say that, even when I was deciding what I wanted to do out of high school, I was at that point too, at a pivot point. Like there was other things that I was considering doing. My parents gave me lots of opportunities to try things. They didn't force me into the business. My brothers both went different directions. But I remember, I went off, I was going to be an underwater welder.
Oh, wow.
And I was going to move to Hawaii, and they told me I was not doing that, and I'm nuts. And that's the first time they've really said no. But then they, threw out the obvious points of you don't know what you're getting into to survive and to live and to raise a family and whatnot. So I got a job back home in Rochester, and I worked there for about a year. And then it came to a point where I was about to get married, and I was like, man, I don't know why I wouldn't jump into this. I liked doing it when I was a kid. I like doing it now. I mean, I still helped out. So I kind of approached my parents and said, how can we make this be something that can support two families? And my dad and mom were all about it. We didn't, we just thought that was a good opportunity. So I remember laying out a budget where I was just about to get married. It was like the bare minimums to survive having a wife, no kids involved, anything like that. And as I started progressing, I'm like, man, this is such an opportunity to be much bigger. And really what my dad needed was help. He's really good at connecting. He's a hard worker. He'll do anything. But I think that having the second generation or a younger mind potentially could grab from where he ground out every day and take it to a next level. And I kind of had the background. I was into computers and websites and things like that. And I'm an introvert, so I'm a little opposite of my dad, where he just will talk to anybody. So I took that end of it. I hired a couple of my friends through college, and honestly, bed bugs started to come around. We were one of the first in New York State to get a bed bug sniffing dog. And that dog immediately changed all of our opportunities from a small little business. We had to just hire people like on the fly. Then it came down to like, okay, we got a dog that's getting us business. I've never even actually really even seen a bed bug. Not enough to go out and identify it. I just knew it was an opportunity. And that story is kind of long. It took convincing to buy that dog. And I can mention it if you like. But essentially, the answer was no to the dog initially. We didn't have money to put towards a $10,000 dog.
Oh, are they 10 grand? I was going to ask.
Expensive.
That's just 10 grand to buy the dog. And then there's flying down to get training. And we're talking back 12, 15 years ago, something like that. So I got the initial no, but I then, said, you know what, I'll build a website. I'll reach out to some people in other states that are using them out west. And I made those connections, and I came back and I said, can we please get this? I think this will change our lives. It wasn't my money up front to throw out there, but I really had a good hunch about it. So we had a revolving $10,000 line of credit that we would use through the winter times. It was slow, and my parents scraped up whatever they had and threw it towards it. And we flew down to Florida, came back, put the website up, started knocking on a few business doors, and it was absolutely incredible the way that life changed from there.
What's interesting is that, like, when you invest in, and you can correlate, buying the bed bug sniffing dog to any type of capital improvement, any type of equipment or whatever, like new trucks, and I think it's really tough. And we're going through this at Proof right now, where we've started to expand on the Eastern Seaboard, our outside sales program. And in the beginning, it's a lot of investment and patience, because it takes a while for that ROI to come back. Did you feel that was the case with the bedbug sniffing dog? Because it's not just like, okay, we're going to do this. It's like, it affects all areas of your business. It's not just about the equipment. It's not like you buy the equipment, you're done. It's like, okay, now we got to train people. Now we got to market it. Now we got to figure out what the pricing is and how to do the follow-up service and all these things. Talk to me a little bit about the patience that was required after the decision was made, and kind of your mentality. Were there ever any moments where it was like, hey, I don't know if we made the right move? Or was it always like, hey, pedal to the floor, like, let's do this?
Everything fell into place, literally everything. I had a website laid out. I forget what it used to be called on a Mac. You could make a website with their old program years ago. I threw something together, put pictures in of the dog once we got it, put verbiage that I could scrape up through the internet. It wasn't that well known back then. But I did watch a show on bed bug sniffing dogs on TV, which is kind of what got me excited. So I went back and researched a little of that, put that all on the website, and really the phone just started to ring.
Wow.
And it took, the first one was cool. It was a hotel, and that was exciting. It was very difficult to price. What kind of guarantee could we possibly put on this? This was all brand new for everybody in the United States, essentially. But the second biggest phone call came from, we have a huge hospital here called the U of R, University of Rochester, and they have dorms and colleges, and they said, we have our own in-house pest control. Sorry, I need to go back one spot. This is really important. What took it off? I did an email to every single email I could find on the news stations and hit all the news reporters and did like my own little PR, I guess you would call it, and said, I've got this dog with bed bugs. Everybody bit. In fact,
really,
we had news stations coming almost every night. We didn't tell them that another one was coming because I think they would have canned the story. It ended up hitting a national news story. There's like a 15-minute MSNBC story that they created. So all of a sudden we became instant experts on something that we didn't even know how to kill yet, which was interesting. Eventually,
what would you attribute that to? Do you think it was the timing? Do you think it was the market? Was it the dog? What was it that really made that catch fire?
Well, I think that it's interesting to people. First of all, you've got a dog that is known to sniff drugs and different things, and all of a sudden now you got one that can smell a bug. It was interesting to me. So I think the news was immediately like, they never stopped talking about it on the news constantly. Not the dog, but bed bugs in general. So the dog just fit their stereo of what they were communicating all over the United States. It was an easy transition into the next best thing. So as we'd show the dog off, we'd have a spinning wheel, or we'd have people hide bed bugs in vials, and the dog would find it every single time.
That's
it was
awesome.
Like a magic trick. I don't know how you say no to letting us into your building from there, is kind of how it felt. U of R caught wind of it. They said, we have in-house, we can't kill bed bugs. We want the dog. Can you come give us a tour? Their management company owned 17 buildings in our area. So as soon as we got connected with U of R, we got connected with this management company, and they had been using another company for years. They were good friends. So to switch to us was very hard because they're a faithful company. Well, now they've been with us for 15 years because of the bed bugs. And we do all 17 of their properties. And then from there, it spread to another. And I remember walking in to our first building for this management company, and they said, can you get rid of our bed bugs? We paid thousands, hundreds of thousands. And me and my dad walked in and said, yeah, for sure. And we only had 3 people working for us. And this is, I'm going to get it wrong, but it's somewhere around a 300 or 400 unit building. We walked out immediately, like, I'm pumped. He's stressed. And he goes, how are we ever going to do this? We don't have people. And I'm like, what has just happened here? Like, we have like the biggest opportunity.
That's such a cool story.
$40,000 base for the first time in our life. That was just for the inspections. No pricing for bed bugs yet. That was just to inspect all of the units. Well, we got into it because our minds were completely in different directions. I'm ready to go. He's like, how are we ever going to do this? So once we got over that little hump, which it actually took probably a good week or two, I hired one of my friends. He hired a few of his people that he knew, and we did some quick training, and we brought the dog through the entire building. We trained our guys very quickly. We only need between 7 and 14 hours of training for technicians to work under us. Train them as quickly as possible. They're not certified technicians, but they can work under ours. We went into this building and completely wiped it free of bed bugs. And they said, sign us up for all the rest of them. We want semi-annual inspections in all of our units. And then the next complex and management company hired us right after that. It was incredible. Right from that spot, another weird thing happened. I guess it's another God moment. A guy that we knew owned a car dealership. He got out of the business, but he was too young to retire. And my dad approached him and was like, hey, why don't you come sell for me? And so it'd be our first ever opportunity to hire a salesperson. We've never had one. Well, he came in knowing absolutely nothing except about cars, and we all know about car dealers. It's just they're funny people. He went to work, man. He knocked on doors and he sold that dog for us from then there out. We would do presentations. It just never ended. It never ended. and it immediately went from a residential business to commercial business within a year. Sometimes I forget about that past because time goes by and I generally move forward. He's still, the single salesman is still with us. We only have one salesperson.
Really?
I don't know a whole lot about sales at the end of the day. Like, it's not my thing. I sell with passion. I sell because I love this business. And, you know, we sell over the phone, but it's, as far as knocking commercial doors, we got one guy and he's still here.
I think it's really cool to think back on the early days. You know, for me, it was, I couldn't wait to not be in the early days when money was tight, when you didn't know if you're going to make it, stuff like that. And then you think back on it and you're like, dang, dude, in a lot of ways, those were the good days.
Yeah.
Another thing that I thought about was I just finished reading 7 Habits of Highly Effective People again by Stephen Covey. It's one of my favorite books. I try to read it once a year. And this time around, I was really focusing on the habit of synergy, of synergizing. And he talks about how you have to value the differences, that, and especially in relationships. And hearing you talk about your father, talking about your different reactions, you were like, let's do it. This is awesome. Your dad was like, how are we going to possibly, staff this? Like, how are we going to, and just that, the magic. And that's what Covey talks about. He talks about the magic. He's like, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. It doesn't equal 3. It equals like 1,000. And I think, and I don't know you very well, and I don't know your father, but it sounds like there was some of that there, where it was like you guys were different enough to where you saw an opportunity where maybe he was hesitant, but then he was able to go through like the logistical and he understand the operational needs of the company. Did you feel like that was the case, that you guys were different enough to where you could see something from different angles and attack it the way it needed to be attacked?
Yeah, I mean, definitely that's what set us apart, because when it got down to getting into the building, he was ready. Once we had people to backfill, he was ready to just go to work. And my dad's not the type to just like read the directions and follow directions at all. He's just like, let's just do it at this point. So I'm more of like, let's at least have a process here and a system in place, and how are we keeping track of pesticides and all of that. So again, there's the magic where we're just two different people. I literally have half of him and half my mom and me. And my dad's, and that's what sets my dad apart though, is he's aggressive in the fact that he just goes after things and doesn't care about the results. He just wants to get it done. He just assumes good results. But we'll deal with the consequences later in whatever happens. Where I'm more like, let's just look out a little bit, because I do have some of that in me, and let's at least have a plan so we can replicate this in the future. And I'm not saying I'm a very structured person. Now I have very, very good structured people behind me that just take my funny ideas and run with them. So
awesome.
I love the story, and I think what really stuck out to me, I think there's a lot of guys, a lot of early PCOs, they're young, they're trying to figure out their business, they're trying to navigate this world where a lot of them are currently working for other pest control companies, or they're doing something different. They've heard about the opportunity that pest control affords, and they're thinking, man, where do I start, right? And when you're an entrepreneur, one of the things that people don't really tell you is that the degree that you deal with imposter syndrome is high, right? Like you're like, hey, like, should I be doing this? Like, is this really what I should be doing with my life? Like, am I making a mistake here? Like, am I really qualified to be an expert in my field? Like, what am I doing? Right.
Yeah.
And to listen to your story where you saw something, you watched a show about bedbug sniffing dogs, and you're like, dude, that's it. I'm 100% in, right?
Yep.
You traveled, you made a big investment, right? That you had to pitch back to other business partners. You're like, dude, this is what we need to do. I promise it's going to be worth it, right? You went out, and at a time when building websites wasn't very common, you built your own website, you put some pictures up there, you put some verbiage on it, right? And then you went out, you did your own marketing, did your own PR, you got news stations to come and talk to you, you developed this awareness in your industry. And this was something that was brand new, right? Brand new to people. And Like that kind of story, that kind of vision, the passion, that's what really drives and pushes entrepreneurs, you know?
Yeah.
It's seeing something that you think, wow, like it just clicks for you.
Yeah.
Like if I can harness this and if I can turn it into a service and I can find people who want to buy it, like I can create infinite amounts of value for people, right?
Yeah.
So I just think it's awesome, and it kind of reminds me, you know, in our business, I've got, you know, my brother-in-law, and I've got my sister and me, and we kind of have these different roles. And my brother-in-law is kind of the visionary type, you know, he's always that passion. You know, we sit down and he's like, okay, here's my idea. Like, I'd really love it if we could do this thing, you know, and have this many accounts by this time. And me and my sister are kind of more of the strategy side of the business, you know, kind of like you were saying, where it's like, okay, that's a cool idea. Let's sit down and talk about the details for just a second, right? Like, let's have some forethought here and look into it. And I wanted to know if you and your dad kind of sat down and really like hashed out those roles, or did you just kind of play it by ear and just let you guys naturally fit in where you guys fit?
I think that it became, I don't want to speak on behalf of my dad, but I do think it became a bit overwhelming with the amount of people that we were hiring. And, you know, he's used to dealing with customers, and he's a leader type person. He's a survivalist type person. But I think when it came to structuring a business with a lot of people, it became quite overwhelming, and he was unsure what he wanted to do. And so there was a lot of back and forth on that. I transitioned half days into the office. He bounced all over, not sure exactly what he wanted to do. We tried different things. Anyways, I ended up transitioning mostly into the office, and then all the way into the office, and kind of just running the people. And the people became my big focus. But in the meantime, my dad would still go out and do some jobs, and he'd talk to customers, and he'd keep our bed bugs alive. He'd feed them on his own arm to keep them in training for the dog. So he played a huge role that made
Dude, that's a real thing.
That's dedication.
It was dedication, and that's the passion that I got from my dad for sure, because you know, nothing turns into something if you don't have a passion for it. And I guarantee you, my dad loves every part of this business. I think he was a great people person, but he loved just jumping in and getting bit by anything. And so we needed bed bugs. He was good at keeping Tracker. Tracker was our dog. He maintained the training with Tracker, and eventually we had to whittle our way out of it because we didn't want another dog, and one dog wasn't enough for all of our customers. It's a lot of work to have a trained dog. It's a lot, and having a Jack Russell Terrier that was probably had a half a brain was a whole nother level of insane. So we owe a lot to this dog, but we're happy to have moved on from it.
So you're not doing it anymore?
Oh, we're still fully into bed bugs, but you hardly hear about bed bug dogs anymore. Like I said, when we first got the dog, I really couldn't have walked into someone's house and found a bed bug. I really didn't even know what I was looking for. I was as clueless. We had done pest control for years, but bed bugs were another level. And you just hear, oh, they're invisible. So in your own mind, without jumping in and seeing it, you assume that. Once we got the dog, though, the dog taught us everything. It taught us where to look, how to look, the smell. You could start smelling bed bugs when you went into homes. Really bad infestations, you could open the door and know they had them. So we just trained our technicians, and I would go back to, I did hire friends of mine, and a good handful are still with us to this day. And one of them created our logo, hand drew it. He went to 4 years of college to be an architect and ended up being, you know, an amazing human being and a great technician. He, you know, again, they bought into the passion, built our logo, scribbled it out, uploaded it into the computer, and turned it into a digital file. And he's a creative thinker. So I have, you know, in the office, I've got another lady that's been with us probably over 15 years. I went to school with her, just killing it. Like, these people bought into the passion that me and my dad had, and you wanted to work at this place forever and see it grow. So
how do you get to that point? I think that's kind of you know, the $1 million question. How do you find people that believe what you believe, that share the passion that you have? How do you find those people, and how do you keep them?
I would say that for me, and I can only go on my experience, obviously, it was being out there every single day. I went to every single job with them. They were that valuable to me that I didn't want anything to go wrong. I didn't want to lose I wanted to be able to make decisions on the spot while we're at these giant complexes. And, for me, it was being there, being present. I would grab the treatments right out of their hand and run in. I'd be doing equally, if not more, than everybody there. So it was an immediate, like, we're in this together kind of thing. Let's go. We would go. Once we got really good at this, we were on the news in a place called Saratoga Springs, working at a complex. It made it all the way to Albany, which is our main area of government. It's the capital. And it was every day that this housing authority, run basically by our government, wasn't able to get rid of the bed bugs. So we went there. It's a 4-hour drive from us. We went there. Then every single news station in New York came to this building and wanted to know what was going on. And I spent half of each day just doing interviews. We were in the local paper. It was incredible. I can't tell you how fast this flew. And we were able to get rid of the bed bugs on the first visit through, and we did a second follow-up 3 weeks later, and there was not one left. So
how many years was that from the beginning? So give us a
right
time.
away, within 2 years.
Jeez.
Like that one came on. And but what I got to say about that is, like, we would go, like, that was a trip. We'd drive there, we'd sleep overnight for a week. They'd leave their families, and we would just have like a really good time each night after working our butts off as a group of 5 guys. And, we made stupid videos. That's another fun thing and I'm sure you'll talk about it, we are into videos a lot. And that video period of our life is so different than where we're at now. But that is what really brought us together, is our culture of friends and working together and seeing results.
That's incredible. Let's talk about that a little bit. You guys have a great YouTube channel. Where did that start? And tell me a little bit about your efforts and how that helps the company today.
Okay, so believe it or not, my dad also loves video and photos. Like, he would take a video and picture of everything. Our company's well documented, all the way back to cameras that sat on your shoulder. Like, he didn't care. Like, he was always filming. But he wasn't a big editor, so he's got terabytes of stuff that he has no idea what to do with. Occasionally we'd put out some of his stuff once YouTube got a little bit bigger, and some of those things actually went viral. Well, we liked video as a company, so I think I had 2 technicians at the time. We bought them both a nice handy cam. It was HD, and they filmed like everything. And they filmed themselves doing stupid things, fun things, interesting things, and they just
What do you mean by stupid? What do you mean by stupid things? Because I have technicians that do some really stupid things.
Well, yeah, I probably shouldn't even mention that. So we do, but they're not anything that is bad. They're just risky and dumb. Okay, as an example, there's a YouTube video of them inside of an apartment. It was a vacant and it had bed bugs, and they went behind one of these stairwell walls, and one of the techs looked out, and you could see the other technician through this little pinhole in this hallway closet. Well, they turned it into, it's called the peeping bed bug song, because when they zoom out of the little hole, there's bed bugs that were peeping right out of that other side of the drywall. And so they made their own videos, like they made their own entertainment and posted them. Or we did, there was something called the Harlem Shake that went viral.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that.
Yeah, we were in Saratoga and doing that big job I told you. And in the hotel room, we did it as a group and just blew up the hotel room. We put it back together, but we made a Harlem Shake and it went viral overnight.
Everybody goes crazy, just throwing stuff. Like, I think it's kind of crazy that, like, because of where we are legally and even politically, that you can't do stuff like that. Like, you were hesitant to share those stories, and I don't blame you, right? But it's like, that it's so great for, like, building company culture.
Yeah.
Just this creative, where it's like no holds barred. It's just people, coming together and creating something. And that's awesome, because I talk a lot about how money's not a great motivator. People think it is, and it's not. It's, 3 or 4 on the list. The number one motivator, studies have shown, is that when people have the opportunity to work together to achieve a common goal or purpose that they're passionate about, it's like money can't buy that. And you're telling me this story, and it's incredible that you were able to create that. Were you, at the time that you were doing it, did you know that you were doing it, that you were building this culture, that you were going to be able to keep these guys long term, or was it more of a, hey, let's just go with the flow and have a good time together?
No, one of my other friends that started with us right out of, well, he was going to college. He'd work 2 or 3 days a week with us. Never would he have thought he'd still be here today. And he actually left. He got his degree and he went to work in the corporate world. And he ended up coming back to us a few years later as we started really growing. I'm like, hey, I know you used to work for us. I need you back, and I want to see what that would look like. So we negotiated, and he's been back ever since. And he kind of helps manage our sales guy now. I never knew what we were doing was creating culture or keeping people around. In fact, I thought this could all just end, or at the time, you're just you're building, so you don't understand the value of money either. You're just having a really good time. And so to answer your question, absolutely not. It was more of just like, I enjoy doing this, and this is incredible that I'm being paid to do this, and my friends can come along and be paid to do it too.
Maybe really that's the trick. Maybe the trick is that you can't force it.
Yeah, you can't. I don't think you can.
I feel like I've run into the same thing, like every time I've tried to like build a culture, like you really focus on like having that culture, it's something that's just kind of always outside your grasp, you're always trying to focus on it, you just can't get it. Yeah. And then, you stop focusing on that, you start looking at some of the fundamentals. Like you said, it's like, okay, what you value the most is you want to provide really good opportunities for your friends and family, you know? And you want to be present for your employees, and you want to show them, hey man, I'm going to work just as hard as you will. I care about you, like, hey dude, let's have some fun. Like, let's make some stupid videos. Let's go. Right. And I'm looking through your YouTube channel. I'm on your YouTube channel right now, zipping through some of these. And dude, I'm going to be watching some of these after the podcast episode because this stuff looks hilarious.
Well, that's right up your alley, Eric.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, dude, funny videos. Yeah,
awesome.
One of these. There's a couple of these videos. Like this guy one of these videos has 4.2 million views, and it's from 12 years ago. Yeah. Right?
Wow.
Like it's just anyway. So I like what you said about that. I think that makes a lot of sense. You're going to have these young PCOs who are thinking, okay, I want to have a pest control company that has this kind of culture, right? And at our company, we're reading the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, John C. Maxwell book. And one of those was, I think it's the law of magnetism, I think is how he says it. And it's kind of like a weird spin on the law of attraction. Like you think that you attract what you want in life. And he kind of says that you actually attract other people that are similar to you. So it's like, if you're in business and you're trying to attract people that have a really, really good culture, right? You have to be the kind of person who's willing to be a little silly, right? Have some fun, like have a good time, like work hard, play hard, and be that kind of person. Because if those are the type of people that you want, they're not going to want to be around you if you're stiff all the time, right? Or if you're a penny pincher or anything else. So it's just kind of an interesting fundamental when it comes to culture. You want to be able to build it, but you have to kind of embody the culture that you're really trying to build.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Caleb. This story's so cool. So as we're wrapping up here, tell me what does the future hold for you guys? What's the end game? Tell me a little bit about where you want to take the company and how you're going to get there.
So like every morning, I remember thinking back, if I think back 10 years ago when things were 15, 10, every day was like a new opportunity. If we didn't answer that phone or go somewhere, we're about to lose a lot of potential business. Like that's how much was coming in. And you mentioned back, we can't film things that we used to, and we can't post things that we used to. And you are right. And that's where my dad wouldn't care. He'd post whatever. I now care. I probably care too much. And so what we ended up doing over the years is we kind of transitioned out of video because we ended up hiring, we had a video guy. He moved on somewhere else. We hired a photographer who was willing to learn video. And then he was with us for many years, 8 years, I believe. And he just recently left, but we hired 2 new videographers and one as a host. And we just started a new video series called Around Town. And it's hits and highlights all the stuff that we do. We're not just pest control. We do wildlife, which is very interesting work. That's kind of where my passion is, the whole company, but I am really focused on wildlife and growing that with bird work and that work. We do a lot of that. But I would say that I'm still in that stage where like every single day is a brand new opportunity that like we're still growing 20% a year on average. And the market is wide open. We're the ones preventing ourselves from going more. And, we're in Syracuse, we're in Buffalo. They're both about an hour from our main headquarters, but trying to just adjust into having remote workers there, maybe getting a building there. We've been doing that for years. We bring in a lot of income from there, so we don't want to stop it. There are similar markets to our area. We just want to keep going. Like I love it. The part that I've gone into more is more of the people part and employees and managing. And although I like it and I like working with people, it's a whole different game than we were back into 15 years ago. We're a whole different company. We went from rapidly, like I told you, we've got a yearly picture of just 3 people, 1 person, 2 people, 3 people, to we're hitting near 60 people. And
incredible.
It's just kind of like, how did this happen? Why is it happening? How do we keep going? And not having a background in business, like, through college or whatever, but more of a passion and understanding bringing money in and sending money out. I know how it works good enough. It's just a whole different game at this point. So we want to keep going. I don't have an end game at this point until it's like, what more can we do? But I still feel young. I still feel motivated. And I've got literally the best team behind, or running right along with me, I should say.
That's awesome, man. Well, congratulations on all the success. It looks like it's been a fun ride. What's the, for our listeners, what's the YouTube handle? How do they find you?
If you just YouTube or Google Town and Country Pest Solutions, or, we're on Instagram. I think we're on TikTok. We're on all the different things. Those are our main one, though, that we're focusing on will be YouTube. That's where we're hitting the shorts. We're hitting all of that and trying to build that out. It's we're on season 2 of Around Town, and we've got another really good one coming out on Friday, extracting honeybees from a colony. So like, it's just the most interesting things that we get to see. And now we've got real videographers that have been doing it for 15 years that can just knock out videos, post things constantly, and we're back into the world that we like, which is video. I don't know where that goes. We're not building it to make money, although it could. We're building it for brand recognition in our area and wherever it goes from there. But that's kind of what we're doing right now. That's
cool, man. Well, I'm sure your dad's proud of you for all of this, especially reincorporating video into the business. So thanks for joining us today, and best of luck in the future.
Thank you, guys.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please show your support by subscribing and leaving us a 5-star rating. Thank you, and we'll catch you on next week's episode.